Grandpa, do you know what is cooler than cool?
The iPod. I love how the kids are faxing it to each other on the gram.
Well, I never thought of it that way, but do you know what is hotter than hot?
Your grandmother, may she rest in peace, but she used to shake her hips, and her hips couldn't lie. And it was like, I'm a truth teller, you know?
I'd prefer if you'd refrain from telling me those sort of things about my grandmother.
I got it.
But on today's show, we're talking about something that is very hot.
She was hot.
We're talking about a business owner who has grown his business by 168% in this past year. Now, that right there is very hot.
Now, grandson, I hate to interrupt you and steal your thunder.
No, do not tell me the story. We've already gone through therapy.
Look, since we've had the discussion, I have never told you that story again.
That's my grandma. Don't tell me about her body. I get it. You were in love and the things happened. I get it. Just let's move on.
Okay. But do you know what is hotter than hot?
I'm not going to play this game. No.
You see, your father was actually conceived in the back of a super sweaty 1957 Chevy, and that was hot.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
3, 2, 1, here we go! Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, and yes. Thrive Nation, on today's show, I am super fired up to introduce you to a guest who hopefully will motivate you to be your best. And I know many of you out there are listening, and you're saying, why don't you have more excavators on the show? And I've thought, Josh, you and I have never talked about it. We've had that feeling.
We have.
Why have we not had more excavators on the show?
I agree.
And then we thought, what is an excavator? And it led down an internet black hole. So we reached out to a client of Mr. Clay Stairs, Levi Gable. Levi Gable, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Hey, man, I'm so fired up to have you because Clay Stairs has been an advisor and a consultant in your life and a coach. And we're kind of proud to do all the back-end support for Clay Stairs and his team. Uh-huh. And I always hear cool success stories about you guys.
Yeah.
And so I want to hear your story. So how did you start Gable's Excavation, and what do you do at Gable's Excavation?
All right. So our company was started in 1980, actually, by my grandfather.
Wow.
He moved here from Oregon and started the business. Went and got a loan for the first piece of equipment and drove it from job to job, just doing odd work from here and there until he finally got some decent-sized customers, and we just kind of grown from there.
How old were you when you got involved in the business? Did you grow up in the business in your teens? Was this something you did after college, or what did that look like for you?
No, I grew up in the business. It's kind of all I've wanted to do since I was a kid. So my first job was actually sweeping the floors for $2.50 an hour whenever I was about 6 years old.
Really?
Yes, sir.
So when did you feel like you were starting to gain traction? I mean, are you the head of the company? Is that your role, or what's your role with the company?
So I'm the vice president. I run all the day-to-day operations.
When did you start to feel confident in that role, or have you ever felt confident in that role as vice president?
It's a work in progress. It seems like just when you think you know a lot, you kind of are reminded that you don't. So every day I just try to learn and improve.
So when did you think about hiring Clay Stairs to help you, or where were you? Walk us through the thought process. Did someone refer him to you, or did you hear about him online, or what was that process like?
So I'm a member of a local business organization, the Associated Builders and Contractors, and Clay came and did a presentation there. I think it was a 10-part mini series that they were doing called the CEO Academy, and that was my first introduction to Clay. And he did a piece on time management, and that just really was huge for me. So after that, I just had to know more, and he invited us to a business conference. And after that, it was shortly after that we signed on. And
did you come to our conference, the Thrive Time Show?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, so this is what I want to unpack this just step by step, and it's so fun the guests we have on the show today. Time management.
Uh-huh.
When he was talking about time management, did you say to yourself, "Uh-oh"? I mean, is that what you were thinking? Or like, That's me. I mean, what were you thinking when he's talking about time management? 'Cause I remember the first time that I got serious about time management. I was like 21 years old. I think I had about a dozen DJs working for me, and I kept forgetting stuff. It happened one time, and then it happened again, and then I'm going, I keep forgetting stuff. And I tried to remember, and then I don't remember who said it, but they said the pen is for remembering, the mind is for thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm going, what? And then I talked to Clifton Talbert, and he said almost the same thing, paraphrased. And then Dr. Zellner said the same thing. I kept hearing that. What were you thinking when you heard him talking about time management?
So when he first started, I was thinking, wow, this is kind of crazy. It's a lot. You know, he's showing us his calendar where it's minute by minute throughout the day. Every single thing is scheduled, from your family time to your fun and everything. And it was just such a foreign idea. But then he started going through, well, do these things happen? Does this happen? Do you find yourself forgetting things and missing meetings? And it was like one after another. Yes. Well, crap. Yes. Yeah. All of the above.
So you realized you had a problem, but you could either have decided to get bitter about it or get better. We've all seen a speaker where we thought, well, that might be true for you, but that's different for my industry. Have you always been a coachable guy, or was your wife telling you, like, you have a problem?
No, like I said, the time management really kind of spoke to me there whenever we first met. But I was kind of the same thing I hear you talking about on the podcast quite often, that my industry is different. I don't really think that my specific business could really benefit from coaching. And, you know, I kind of had some of the ideas in the back of my mind of the things that I knew needed to happen and processes I knew needed to be put in place, but I just didn't know exactly where to start, and I didn't have the time to set and basically start from scratch. So eventually I just kind of came to the realization that I could use some help. I'm
not going to mention the names of the businesses I'm referring to, because Wes Carter, my attorney's here with me.
But appreciate that, Clay.
But before creating what I do now, starting in 2008, I hired these coaches, and literally every single time, without exception, nothing happened. They would meet with me and say, you, my man, need a website that needs to be optimized. You need to have a call script. You need to have call recording. And I would say, okay, well, what program should I use? They go, I don't know.
Yeah.
What website? Can you build me a website? No, but I recommend that company. You need a video on your website, they would say. And I would say, oh, okay. And I told Stairs years ago, I said, it's the consulting with the back end is kind of what entrepreneurs need. They need to be told what to do, but then someone to help them along the path.
Sure.
Has that been your experience working with Clay Stairs, or not? Or tell us what that's like working with him because I think the word coach has certain connotations.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was the thing about it. You know, as a business owner, you kind of have an idea of where you need to be.
Yeah.
But just the time to get there. So yeah, all the back end help with the SEO and the website, that's all been tremendous. You know, I don't know anywhere else where you could go and sign on with no contract and get the type of website that you and your team and Clay's Stairs team are pumping out. So it's been terrific.
How much larger? I'm not asking for the specific numbers if you're not comfortable sharing them, but as a percentage, how much have you grown in these past years or two working with Clay Stairs?
So in 2019, we were 168%.
One year?
The year before, yes.
160, and this is a company that's been around since 1980. So we're talking about almost a 38-year-old company. It was started the same year I was born. So a 39-year-old company, and you've grown 168%. Wes, you manage a lot of people at Winters and King. For the listeners out there that don't know, you are an attorney.
I am an attorney.
But can you explain what your role is with Winters and King?
I haven't got this far yet.
Clay's trying to take you down the road.
I'm sorry.
No, I kind of like you. I do the day-to-day operations. Our firm was founded back in the early 80s. Have two founding partners that are still actively involved, but I run the day-to-day operations and a lot of the websites, the benefits, the advertising, the employee issues, all that fun stuff it takes to run a business. And then we try to dig holes and practice law in between those things, right?
So have you ever struggled, Wes, with managing time? Because, again, you guys are – I'm not sitting here saying you're flawless time managers, but we have great entrepreneurs on the show. It's very rare you have this many people on a show that are all self-employed. So I'm going to tap into your wisdom and Josh's and Cory's wisdom. Talking about time management, was that ever a struggle for you early on as more got added onto your plate?
It's always I think it's a constant struggle. It's one of those things that you have to stay on top of with a concerted effort because, you have all these other things of running a business that get in the way. But as you mentioned, one of the things I learned was scheduling, your personal life with your business life, not trying to maintain 2 or 3 calendars, because if you're not intentional about it, we lose control of our calendars, and my whole day fills up with appointments with new clients.
True.
Well, I can't get any of my work done if I'm talking to new clients all day. Or if my schedule fills up all day, there's no chance that I'm going to be able to go to a kid's play or to a kid's event or, whatever it is. So, it's something you have to stay on top of, because it's not just learning to put everything on your calendar, but it's that constant exercise of managing your calendar.
Craig Rochelle, Pastor Craig Rochelle, who's a client of Winters and King and the pastor of the founding pastor of Life Church.
Mm-hmm.
We've had him on the podcast for 2 interviews, and he said you have to say no to grow.
Yeah.
I know for me, like a typical day today, like just today, before I left for the office today, somebody said, this is what they say. And it always comes across like this. They'll say, can we talk? And I know what that means. I know what that means. I said, so you need to go talk to John, because he's a competent manager. You go talk to John. And they said, well, it's about my paycheck. It's a little bit off.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I wasn't careful, I would have been late to today's interview with Ramit, late to this. I would have been late for dinner tonight with my wife. I would have been late to picking up my daughter from 4-H tonight. My whole life would be late if I was willing to just have that conversation with every person who wanted to. Josh, has that been a struggle? Because you've grown from $300,000 in revenue to $1.9 million in revenue.
Wow.
We've had the opportunity to serve you over these past couple years. Your growth rate is outstanding. Do you have to say no to grow? And how do you manage your schedule?
Absolutely. So prior to you, I did not manage any schedule. Everything was a burning fire. And
That's a hot
I
move.
was super duper busy. I was working 14 or 16 hours a day, and nothing got done. And you and I had the conversation 2 years ago after a conversation with my wife of, hey, honey, what did you do today? And I have no idea. I know I left the house at like 4:30, but I have no idea what I did.
Is your wife? I hear this from a lot of different spouses. I just want to know. And if again, I'll edit it out if it's not the answer I
Awesome.
want.
Love it.
Is your wife a buyer of my stock at this point, or is she not a big fan of the Clay Clark Foundation?
She's a huge fan of the Clay Clark personal. Like she's a huge fan of what you've done for our marriage and like our personal relationship. She's a fan of the money and all that stuff too, but she likes the fact that like I'm home and I'm present when I'm home, and I'm not
the whole
on
phone
my
off rule.
phone, and I like am at dinner, and like I
won't ask anybody else that
sit
question.
there and
So
talk
she's
to her.
happy.
Yeah.
She's happy.
She's overly happy.
Okay, so I want to go back to Mr. Levi Gable. You've got a family.
Yes, sir.
How many people are in your immediate family?
So I'm married, and we have one son. He's 7 years old.
Okay. What's he into right now?
He is into soccer.
Cool.
And what else?
Does he break your valued possessions?
No, he's really a rule follower.
Is
so
he?
He's not into breaking things yet.
Okay, we have 5 kids, just so that 1 out of every 2 kids would be a breaker of things that I value, to teach me that materialism is bad.
Yeah.
They would take Sharpies and write on walls and pictures that I valued. Mickey Mantle baseball cards, they would put that in the VCR. They'd flush things like a King Griffey Jr. rookie card, just see if it floats, that whole deal. It was exciting times, but it taught me that materialism doesn't matter. You can't take it with you.
Yeah.
Talk to me about those ideal and likely buyers that you serve, and then I want to talk to Cory about the same thing. So the ideal and likely buyers, who are the people that you serve at Gable's Excavation?
So our ideal buyers are utility providers, like local power company here is AEP. We work for a lot of telecommunications providers like Verizon, Windstream, Zayo.
Who do you not?
CenturyLink.
You know who you provide services to, though. You
Yes.
know who they are.
Yes, sir.
Interesting. Josh, Living Water Irrigation.
Yes.
OK.com. Who is your ideal and likely buyer?
So our ideal and likely buyer is someone who needs a sprinkler system. Someone wants to keep a beautiful yard and doesn't want to spend all the time dragging hoses around. Typically higher income.
You would say that not everyone's an ideal and likely buyer for you.
Not everyone, sir.
Would you say the same thing there?
Absolutely.
Interesting. Time wasting problem number 1. Dealing with people that aren't a good fit and trying to convince them that they are a good fit. Wes Carter, you've had to put up with me for some time now, but I refer people to your law firm from time to time, and I have found that people that have an actual business, that understand the concept of being of space and time, being at the place of your office on time, and being mentally present, tend to like your firm. I find that people that are maybe on the verge of maybe starting a company but haven't, and who don't understand the concept of being on time, maybe aren't a good fit. Maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but do you know who your ideal and likely buyer is?
We do, and since we provide a diverse set of services, it's probably a little broader than you know Cory and Levi, but it's someone who has a problem or needs a solution, and is willing to invest a little bit of resources to address the issue or the problem, because we can't work for free.
What?
What? And there is some level of resource that you have to devote to, secure proper legal counsel. And so, there's some flexibility in there, but I think probably the biggest time waster from my personal experience practicing law are those clients that want to spend 45 minutes on initial consultation about things that they really have no plans to ever do, where they haven't taken any of the initial steps. Now, I'm happy to walk someone through, here's what you need to do. But, you can tell pretty quickly that someone is dreaming and looking for a way to get there, and someone's just dreaming. And you have to kind of separate those two, because otherwise they're going to pay me a lot of money and it's going to be money down the drain.
Somebody out there should be taking notes on this, because again, everybody in this room, successful entrepreneur with businesses that do over $1 million a year of gross revenue, and all of us, time management is like the very foundation. That's the first thing, managing your calendar. The second is figure out who's your ideal and likely buyer. Don't waste your time with people that aren't a good fit. Cory, at Trinity Employment, I've had the honor to work with you and serve you guys, you and Amber, for going on close to 9 years, my man. And
at least, yeah.
You guys have grown quite a bit, but who is your ideal and likely buyer at trinityemployment.com?
Well, we have 3 different divisions.
Got
so any healthcare facility,
okay.
We staff everything from a front office position all the way up to a physician or a physician's assistant. In business, accounting, and finance, any of those positions in our business arena. And then 2 years ago, we started our industrial division. Each one of those are individual departments. So it really varies. But I'll tell you what, I just had a meeting today that is very similar to this. And yeah,
just in.
So in our industry, a lot of the larger staffing firms, what they will do is they will go into some of the larger companies, and they will do business at cost or a little bit below, just to keep the mid-sized firms out.
Got it.
And that's what this guy wanted me to do. He wanted me to do it at cost, and I told him, I said, we are not a non-profit organization.
Really?
In fact,
that's offensive.
We're a for-profit organization. And so I just told him, I said, listen, this is what you'll get. With those particular firms, what they'll do is they will give you kind of what you pay for. They'll get the job done. But with us, you just need to know that we're not a good partner for you if you do not fit within these parameters, meaning we're going to make money.
You're going to make money, not going to apologize for it. And again, Wes, it's always funny when I refer people to you. That's why I always follow up to see what happens. Because sometimes people will meet me at a conference. They'll say, who would you recommend?
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah.
And I say, well, I just had Wes speak because he's my guy. I talked about it. I pay him. And they'll say, well, what to do what? And I'm like, well, we just closed on some tip-top canine franchises. Guess who was there? Wes. Why? Because I'm going to miss a box. I don't want to misspeak. I want to be accurate. I want to be above reproach. And they're like, well, what does he charge you? I'm like, I think it's like $350 or something for the hour. And they're going, oh my gosh, you can go on that. What's that legal thing you do? It's
legal
like
Zoom.
There's legal Zoom. There's one more that's even better. It's like a network marketing one. It's beautiful. What is that one?
I don't know.
There's
lots of them popping
But they're
up.
like, oh, you do the whateverlegal.com, and it's only like, it's $300 a month, and you get to talk to a new attorney every time, and it's awesome. And so, again, you have to know who your ideal and likely buyers are. And once I realize that somebody doesn't care about the quality, I go, that's probably not a good fit.
Well, and also, too, and I think for listeners to know is important is sometimes your different services have different ideal and likely buyers.
True.
So if my ideal and likely buyer to start a new nonprofit, it's completely different from a compensation evaluation that might cost them $15,000. That's that's looking for a very large established nonprofit. So don't get into that thing where you have to fit your entire customer base into one box either. You might have different ideal and likely buyers depending on which services you're offering inside, like your departments you mentioned.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, one thing that I had to learn the hard way, and that was just, it frustrated my entire staff. It frustrated us because when we looked at it at the end of the year, we didn't make money. We worked so hard to satisfy these customers that were asking something that was unrealistic from us if we were to be profitable. And man, when I finally got that mindset that no, we don't have to do business with just everyone. I know that this sounds like
It
a
offends
crazy
somebody.
idea.
It offends somebody when you say that.
Yeah, but for for me at the time, that was a big epiphany. It's like, oh, I don't have to do business with you, because when you're ramping up the company, you feel like you have to.
Oh, yes.
And breaking that mentality, man, Clay, you really helped me to really analyze that and know I am profitable.
I had a
before-
conversation that did not go well years ago. I'm not going to give you specifics, but my wife was within earshot. And Wes, you would have been like, dude, don't do that. This is probably about 7 or 8 years ago. It's a true story. You would have been like, dude, stop. But I'm in the room with this guy, and I won't mention his industry, but I'm in the room with him. And he says, I feel like that you guys could do what you do at a little less money. And I said, we charge $1,700 a month. We make a 20% profit margin. That's what we make. And I can't charge less than that because it's 20% profit margin. We have full-time employees. I can't charge less. And I appreciate you. You could definitely go somewhere else if you want to. And I gave him referrals from other people. And I was very nice, calm, wasn't being sarcastic. And he says, but I called that other company, and it's $3,000 just for the website, and then it's this much for that and that video. And I go, I know, which is why it's $1,700 a month. It's a great deal because you get the video, the photography, the web, the search engine. But he goes, but you have to meet at the same time every week at your company. The other guy, I can just call him when I want something. I'm like, which is why you've waited months for videos, because he's on call by everybody, so he can never sit down and edit videos. And I was trying to be calm, and then he's like, so you're saying you don't want my money? I remember him just looking at me, and I was like the John Wayne moment, and I'm going, I guess I don't. And he's like, well, that's just crazy. It gets kind of crazy. And so he's like, I can't even believe it. This is ridiculous. I'm going to call my partner. So he calls his partner speakerphones. I told my wife, I said, Vanessa, I think I'm going to have to tell him to F himself. And she goes, are you kidding me? And I go, no. She goes, honey, why? And I go, just listen in. So he's on the you can hear him on speakerphone, this partner. Like, this guy literally won't work with us unless we keep our weekly meeting time. If we change it every week, he won't meet. And he is literally unwilling to drive out to our office to meet every week. And I told him we're going to take our business elsewhere unless he will drive to our business once a month, and he won't do it. It's crazy. This guy's and my wife looks at me and she's like, you can tell him. Because he's like going on this rant. So
That's what it took.
So I walk in and I'm like, hey, I just want you to know I really respect you, but I don't think we're a good fit. And he says, well, I think you're an a-hole. And I was like, well, this is the part where I tell you to F yourself. And then it did not go well. And like there was a lot of people in the office who were like, because he just, the door slams and it gets crazy. And you don't want it to get that way. Mm-hmm. And that's where we get into marketing and branding, Levi. You hope that your marketing and branding sends the right signals so that certain people don't show up at Taco Bell looking for seafood. You put out the right signals so you hope that people don't show up at the Warren Theater without a shirt on. You hopefully put out the right signals so people don't show up at Big Splash expecting to do a spelunking expeditions or something. You hopefully put the signs up that say petting zoo so that people don't think it's a mattress center. But occasionally the wrong people come in. But let's talk about the marketing and branding.
Sure.
What kind of branding and marketing has Clay helped you through? Because I've been really impressed to see the product. Yeah, our team's helped to fulfill the vision. But what kind of help did Clay help you with branding and the marketing? And then I want to get Josh with Living Waters' take on this.
So he helped us setting up all of our ads, retargeting ads, AdWords, all of that. Before we started working with him, there was zero marketing that we were doing.
So logo?
We had the logo. We just
okay.
redid that recently before we signed on there.
Website?
So the website,
You had
all
that?
new. Yeah.
Okay, new
the
website.
Before was just horrible.
Business cards?
No, business cards were from previous.
Okay, so you already have the logo, the cards.
Yes, sir.
What all did he help you? If you could kind of remember all that, did he do a marketing video or optimize your Google Map?
We did Google Maps, Google Images. We just started uploading videos, about us video, headshots, obviously the website, our advertising.
Isn't it weird taking headshots?
It is. It's a strange thing.
You're a dude and I'm a dude. Every time I've even recommended to a client, I'm like, why don't we do headshots? And I almost feel like I need to go grab a barrel of meat and like a gun to say it and wear like cowboy.
Reaffirm your manliness.
Yeah, I need to I seriously start to feel like anytime I recommend headshots, I'm like and potpourri. I mean, I just feel like it gets weird. But you did all those things.
Yes, sir.
And now that we've got to that, are you spending your whole meeting every week changing your logo or your business cards, or what kind of things are you focused on now? Now that because I think a lot of people can get stuck in the weeds of branding.
Right.
What kind of stuff do you spend your time on now?
Yeah, so we already had the logo pretty locked in.
Yeah.
Nowadays, whenever we're in coaching meeting, we're kind of focusing on, right now we're implementing the Dream 100.
Amen.
So last year we were just so busy, we couldn't have taken any new clients.
I love this.
Had we had the opportunity.
Yep.
And now we're kind of circling back and trying to pick up and expand our customer base. So that's really what we've been focusing on for the last couple of weeks.
Do you know who Jocko Willink is?
No, sir.
Do you know who he is, Wes?
No.
Do you know who he is, Josh?
Absolutely.
Well, I just booked him today.
Discipline.
And
equals
he's on
freedom.
my Dream 100, and I get rejected by the best. But
Yeah,
this
you
week
do.
we booked the founder of Square. It's a $6 billion company, and we booked Jocko.
Wow.
But if I were to list off all of the people,
And
all
we
the
got
people who
Levi Gables.
That's
and Levi Gables, and if I were to list off all the people that have rejected me, it would be a very depressing show. I mean, we'd have people going, stop. 'Cause I just keep reading and reading. The Dream 100 is where you make a list of your 100 ideal and likely buyers, and you reach out to them to try to win their business. And you reach out to them until they cry, buy, or die. You do it with tact. You do it nicely, but you just keep going. And you're like an infection that keeps spreading. Every time you get another rejection, the infection spreads. Have you actually gotten business from the Dream 100?
Not yet. No, we actually just
started.
started delivering this week. Actually.
Ooh,
Yeah.
you're in that kind of that
Exciting time.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Josh, with the branding and marketing for
Yes,
Living
sir.
Water Irrigation,
Yeah.
I've had two people who I know and respect who've asked me about your company, Living Water. I will not mention who. One who thought it's a horrible idea to name your company Living Water Irrigation, and the other one thought it was a great idea. And I'll just give you the logic of these two people. One says, "Hey, why is it called Living Water?" And I said, "Well, he's a guy who's a Christian guy, and I think he just wants to let the world know he's a pro-Christ guy. I think that's what he's doing. I think that's the move. I don't want to speak for him, but I think that's the deal." From the Bible verse about living water. Other person, she says, "I don't like it when people name their businesses after Christian things. I don't like that." So the only way to please both parties would be to name your company like Josh Wilson LLC.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the name of the company and the branding and just kind of that process. Was it scary to name your company Living Water Irrigation?
Yeah, it was a definite polarizing decision. You know, we sat down and we decided that this is the direction we want to go. We want to be clear and out front. I think it's a challenge as a Christian businessman to legitimately honor those morals and those values and operate in that way. I think you're setting yourself up to be judged differently. So, but I'm very proud of our name. I'm very proud of what we stand for and who we are and what we do. As far as the marketing and branding, y'all did a great job of that, making sure we didn't get hung up on a shade of blue or a perfect green, and making sure that we got it together. And then obviously
Although we couldn't get off the headshots.
Yeah,
I wanted to
well,
keep taking more and more of you.
More
I mean,
headshots.
you couldn't catch my good. We kept trying to find my good side and never could find it. So
Yeah, let me give our listeners, if they're in a similar situation, just my 2 cents here, because
please.
I've operated for a long time now in an industry that we serve churches and ministries, a large portion of our practice.
Yep.
And
Big
I
ministries.
see other people, there's other vendors in that area that we encounter, for all kinds of services that they're trying to offer to those people.
Yes.
And I think there's a fine line you can walk between letting people know about your values and selling Jesus.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
And so, there's a way to do it where you can put those values on display, try to live by those values without, kind of crossing that gray line. I don't know that anyone's quite sure where it is, where you're using Jesus as a marketing tool.
Thank you for calling
and there's
DJ
a
Connection.
fine
I'm
line
answering
there.
from the prayer tower. How can I help you?
Right.
That's maybe too far.
And so that's something that as people go through that decision-making process that I think a lot of people struggle with, is just how much is too much.
Well, and to piggyback off of that, and I love our name and we would never change it, but there is some level of clientele out there who expects that we should work for FREE. That spells free.
Yeah.
I want
So
to
just to know, if you're naming a company out there, maybe.
I
just-
want to
just be
get I want to
cognizant
get
of that.
I want to get Levi's take on this. You guys have interesting uniforms.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain what you guys are wearing? Because they say stand out. They're great. The first time I saw you guys in the office, I thought to myself, they're all in.
Yeah.
That's great. What you guys are wearing, that's hot stuff. What can you share with the listeners what you're wearing?
Yeah, so we were running into a problem that a lot of my job sites require fire-resistant uniforms.
Yeah.
And the guys that work on those jobs, obviously they're wearing them, and the guys that don't didn't want to wear them. So it just created an issue whenever we're moving someone, maybe midday, we have a scheduling conflict or a job that's shut down. We've got to move someone from one place to another. Well, he doesn't have the correct uniform. So I said, well, we're just going to fix this. So we went out and got high-vis, so bright yellow fire-resistant coveralls, and everyone wears them now.
Can I have a music video that
love that.
features your team. We're on a job site here. Some might remember this from the Beastie Boy fame. I think this is it here. Is this? Let me cue it up here. This might be. Are you a big Beastie Boy fan? Is that where you got the inspiration for this?
I can't say that it was, but it is rather fitting.
It's beautiful. I mean, look at this. This looks like you guys kind of. I guess they have more white and you're more yellow, right?
Yeah, so my brother and I wore the uniforms for a solid month.
You did?
Just so that our employees would have no latitude to complain.
Oh, yes. That's so good.
Yeah.
So good. Now, Cory Minter, I want to get his take on this because his company is called Trinity Employment. And again, Trinity, it could be the Father, Son, the Holy Ghost, or it could be Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, and more Bernie Sanders. What's the Trinity all in reference to?
Oh, it stands for the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Have you lost a deal because of that?
Yeah, I lost one deal that was, it was probably close to $1 million in revenue.
Have you gained a deal from it?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, for sure we have. But I love what you said, Wes, and I wanted to have my little take on that. And it's just this. This is my approach. Never say a word unless you're asked. Clay asked me. I'm going to say it. But just let the way that you live everything out do the talking for you. You really don't have to go and tell people when you just go and do it.
That's a great point.
I agree with what you guys just said. I just want to make sure, because there's listeners out there right now who are thinking about doing their branding, and they have a name in their. I mean, think about this. If I talk about this at the conference all the time, but if the founder of Hobby Lobby, who's a great guy who I've spent a day with one time, Mr. Green, if he were to sit down with Mr. Schultz, the founder of Starbucks, and say, we're gonna agree on a playlist for the overhead music, you go first. Okay, Mr. Green, you you go first. Oh, Mr. Schultz, no, okay. Mr. Green, I'll let you go first. Fine. Mr. Green, well, I tell you what, Mr. Schultz, I'm going to go with Michael W. Smith, Friends and Friends Forever.
Ooh,
Mr.
man,
Schultz
that's a
says,
good one.
nope, no. I want John Legend, All of Me. And he's like, let me hear the lyrics. And they go through, and this debate begins. He's like, well, I like the lyrics, but I just don't like that one part because it connotates relations pre-marriage. So no to your song, Mr. Schultz. And then Mr. Schultz says, no to your song, Mr. Green, because it's the pro-Christian. I want to be, we don't say Christmas, it's the holidays. But let's go for the next song. Okay. So Mr. Green, you choose a song. Okay, I got a great song. This song's great. Let's do anything by Amy Grant pre-secular. And then Schultz, you gotta be kidding me. Come on, let's do. And they would go round and round and round, and it wouldn't work. And so you've got to eventually decide on who you are, and it's really easy to do until the first time it comes in contact with other people. So back to your yellow uniforms.
Yeah.
Your homeboys were saying, or not your people, but people who knew the people who worked for you. They're saying, I don't want to wear that thing. So you wore that thing for a month straight. You wore this bright. Yeah, you did.
Owned it.
You walked it out.
So none of my employees even knew this was even a figment of my imagination until my brother and I showed up to the office
it
wearing
was
them.
awesome.
And we didn't even say anything about them. We just wore them until someone asked.
But
So
you
it took
did
a
it.
little while for them to ask. I think they were a little scared.
So now we got the time management going on. We got that figured out. That's a prop number one. Prop number two: who are the ideal and likely buyers we want to serve?
Yep.
3, we got to get that branding done to make sure our website looks good and not hood. Now, step 4 that we all had to go through is we're going to have to market. Now, marketing is where you generate leads. It doesn't mean you generate sales. That's sales. This is marketing. Have you generated leads through online marketing as an excavation guy? Have you gotten some leads from online, or have you closed any deals from people who have read your reviews, or where do you get leads from?
Yeah, we've definitely generated a lot of leads from our online, our Google ads, and our Google reviews that we've been working on. They haven't really quite been our ideal buyer.
Yep.
Now, that's not to say it's not worth doing, because one ideal buyer could potentially be $1 million client.
Yep.
So we just continue doing that, and so that's why we implemented and began working on the Dream 100.
Got it.
That's where you get better leads.
Better leads from the
Yes.
Dream 100 for you. Now, it's interesting is because we have a guy, Andrew, is Andrew in the house? Is Andrew? I'm going to have Andrew just for a second, steal your mic just for a second,
Sure.
because Andrew has a couple clients right now who are doing the Dream 100 who are killing it. Yeah, and I want to have you share about that. Wes, where do you get your leads from? 'Cause everyone markets differently, right? Every business has its own. People always say, my industry's different. Yes, your industry you generate leads differently per industry, but every industry has to generate leads. How do you generate leads at wintersking.com?
Well, we take a pretty broad approach. I would say before we started doing much SEO, we were in the radio world a lot.
Yep.
Never really much TV, but radio and
A lot of rap music channels.
Yeah, hardcore rap
Right,
is where
right.
we were aimed.
Right after the weed commercials.
And then personal referrals were always huge for us.
Got it.
Because of that. Now, recently, the last 5 years or so, I was one of those people initially that thought nobody's going to look at a Google review to say if they're, to tell them if I'm a good attorney or not. And
So funny.
surprisingly, I was wrong. It happened once. I was wrong. And I'm sitting down with clients on, multiple occasions now where they're not concerned about where I got my doctorate degree
At all.
about any of the multi-million business clients that I have or judgments that my firm's got. They're like, oh, we came here because you have 5-star Google reviews.
And Google knows the power of that. And according to
Yeah.
Forbes right now, over 90% of people read reviews when doing business-to-business transactions before calling. 90% read reviews. So what happens is that people don't tell you, oh, by the way, Wes, I read your reviews first. Usually. They just do.
Right.
And then and someone says, well, it's so frustrating, Andrew. I registered my Google map. I have the most reviews in my category, but I'm not top in Google yet. Why? Well, it's because scammers and hackers have figured out if we get a bunch of bogus reviews and we pay for them on Fiverr, we could be top. And this just happened. One of Charles Kolaw's top competitors, this guy, he paid Fiverr for a bunch of bogus reviews, and he lost all of them. And he got removed from the map, and it was awesome. Whenever my client's competition loses, it gets me excited.
Oh, yeah.
But have you ever had business owners that you've been coaching down the path who have expressed frustration of how long it takes to get top of Google with the reviews and the search engine content?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not like an overnight thing at all. But that's the good thing, because only the diligent people who are willing to stick it out and actually do it, those are the ones who win.
For a minimum of 3 months, usually.
Oh,
It
yeah.
takes 6
Minimum.
months to a year to get to the top of Google. Now, Andrew, let's talk about this. Think about some clients that you've worked with right now.
Yep.
That have implemented the Dream 100 system that are getting tangible sales from it.
Yeah, I've got a lot here. Jamie Fagel is a big one.
Jamie, what does Jamie Fagel do?
Jamie Fagel has a company called Jameson Fine Cabinetry, and he's in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Got it.
And he has someone on his team who's dropping off physically donuts. And he has a fine cabinetry company, so he's dropping off donuts at the offices of home builders. So
He does business-to-business sales,
Business
fine
to
cabinets,
business. Yep.
dropping off donuts. Does it work?
Yeah, he actually just booked a deal that will be a little over a quarter of what he did last year.
One deal.
One deal.
Now, I'm
From
going to
the
one-up you.
drop-offs.
I'm going to one-up you.
Okay.
There's a lady named Margaret. She's a Greek lady.
Margaret.
She works for Morrow Lyon Kitterman. You've met her.
She's an incredible.
One of my clients, a
incredible
pediatric
person.
dentist. This lady generated 17 referrals last week from pediatricians by herself. And what she does is she goes by and visits all the pediatricians and drops off swag. And she's nice. She's in her 50s, I think, maybe. And she's just funny. She's got a kind of a wisdom to her.
Yeah.
But this lady, armed with just accoutrements and swag, generates an insane amount of business. And when people tell her no, she goes back. One up that.
Oh, Daniel Ramos with Snowberry Heat and Air. He is doing drop-offs, and he's also just cold calling places like Lowe's, Home Depot, and trying to get on their referral list. And so he did that, called up some local places, and now he's on multiple different home improvement stores. If you want to get an air conditioner installed by them, then you're going to be using Daniel.
I'm going to one-up you one more time.
Okay.
In your face.
In my face.
In your face. This will be a good one. We've got a guy over here named Cory Minter who's here right
Ooh.
now.
Uh-oh.
He's here. This isn't one of your bogus stories, okay?
In the
This is a
house.
fact. And Cory has been relentlessly marketing to hospitals and doctors' offices and clinics. Who all do you
all
market
sorts
to?
of businesses now. I mean, today I was out in Muskogee.
In my face.
And are you getting business from all that? Because your team is phenomenal. They're just pelting the marketplace. Are you getting business from it?
Well, of course. Starting out, you guys. A long time ago, this was many years ago. This is 9 years ago. Clay had started us on the Dream 100 list that you guys are talking about, and we implemented that. That worked. Now I'm training someone else that implements this for us. I've got an entire scale. Today, the item that we were dropping off was a little cup with a little measuring tool in it and some
An
pins.
athletic cup or what kind of cup?
Joe's cup. Eskimo Joe's. A lot of people
Shocking.
This is a nationwide. This is a nationwide show, so not everyone's going to know what Eskimo Joe's is. But Joe's cups, and it works.
Okay.
Yep.
Trinity employment on it. It's amazing.
Folks, I'm sorry to take the show there, but I have to because that's my job. Okay. So now we talked about the Dream 100. I want to now, Andrew, you can try to one up me one more time. But I have to kick you out of here.
I've got it.
And I get the last word because I have a megaphone.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
fine.
Primo Trailers, Tyler Hallblade. He manufactures aluminum trailers. He makes them, and then he sells them to dealerships all across North America. And he's got a guy named Carter on his team, and he's calling all of the dealerships in North America, and he has been selling a ton of trailers. So he also, in January, grew, I believe the number is 588% over last January, just through the Dream 100 phone calls. They're actually selling real trailers to real dealerships.
Real quick, while you were giving that great story, which I believe to be true, your mom called.
Oh.
I can't wait to hear
wow.
this.
Here we go.
Seriously, we have been working for a long, long time with a lot of great clients. But I hate to do that, but it's a great way to upset his emotional state. That's kind of a Trump move.
Yeah.
Some have told me I should bring up your mother, but I'm not going to.
I
Some
would
have said.
never.
But one of our longtime clients and a great lady, Jill Donovan with Rustic Cuff. You've met her. She's landed Miranda Lambert, I think, Kathy Lee Gifford, Oprah all has
Winfrey.
Clients of rusticcuff.com. Do you want to go one up again? Because I'll give you the final word in your face.
Oh, man, I can keep going. Autolift Services in Iowa.
Sorry,
in
your mom's
Ames.
calling. Let me get it.
Okay, you probably pick it up. In Ames, Iowa. He is a 21-year-old guy who installs, fixes, and repairs auto lifts. So if you go to Jiffy Lube and your car gets lifted up for an oil change or whatever you're doing, he's the guy that in Iowa that goes in there and fixes those things or installs them.
Okay.
So he's been knocking on the doors of those places, of dealerships, knocking on the doors of dealerships, on Jiffy Lubes, all those kinds of things. And he's been saying, hey, I'll inspect your lift for $1. And he drops off donuts, and people love him. And so he's been inspecting the lifts for $1 and then giving him a quote in person and saying, hey, this is how much it would cost to fix your lifts. And he's been getting so many deals from this.
Andrew, Maya Angelou couldn't be here tonight. And do you know why? She's dead. But she says this. She said, nothing works unless you do.
True.
And so the system works. You just got to do it. You got to do it. Now I want to kick you out of here because you got to take that call from your mom. But here's the deal: is now we get into sales. Now sales can feel dirty for attorneys, doctors, dentists, professionals, founders, sons of founders, grandsons of founders. I see a lot of people who started with a little something usually are unwilling to do sales. Now, Cory, I'm going to speak on behalf of Cory for a second. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't start off with a lot.
No.
So you don't even care. You're going to go sell it.
Right.
I don't
had
care.
to.
Because I have no class. So if you're kind of classy, if you're lacking the classiness and you replace it with assiness like I do, you don't mind doing sales. If you're a guy like Cory who maybe you started out of your house, right?
I started at the kitchen table.
Kitchen table.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
With a brand new child. And I just bought a house. I don't know what I was thinking.
So that's the worst time to start. And you said, let's do it. So you've been kind of a fearless caller. What advice would you have for somebody who says, okay, I got my time management going on. I got my ideal and likely buyers defined. I've got my branding done. I'm getting the market. I have leads coming in, but I don't want to call them too much. I don't want to wear them out. I don't want to offend anybody. I just don't want to. What would you say?
Well, I'm actually talking to a gentleman that has started a company that about this, and he does not like this, but it is just an absolute. You have to go do this now. You don't have to freak out if someone says no, and using just a number system that if I make this many phone calls, let's say I make 100 phone calls, and I get 5 or 10 people interested.
Yep.
Well, you're just running a numbers game. Well, if I do 100, I'm going to get, 10 customers in every 2 days.
So 90 rejections is 90 steps in the right direction is how you would process it.
That's right. But check this out, though, Clay.
It out.
Man, doing this over time and being consistent with it, my best customers have come because I wasn't hugely persistent. I didn't wear them out, but I kindly just called them again, stayed in touch with them. Sometimes 8 and 9 years later. In fact, just last week, I got a new client, and it's a big one. Like several departments.
In Andrew's face. He didn't share stories that are 9 years. I mean, think about this. Andrew was probably 12
but
when you started this system.
But every 3 months, I dropped something off, and I talked to him every 3 months. I mean, this was someone that was just a long shot, but I never stopped. And so now I'm going to be able to take over all of their departments now. It's going to be a lot of business, and it's just because I stayed persistent with it.
And your social circle has changed, too. I mean, you're around really cool people now on a daily basis. You guys went out and saw the space shuttle launch there. You're hanging out with the head of NASA, cool people. You've been diligent about your social circle. Wes, I think you were going to chime in there about this.
Well, I was going to say, I'm probably the odd man out here. I don't know Levi, but
oh boy,
I hate sales. I despise sales. I was the kid.
Andrew, your mom's calling. She wants to talk to Wes about sales.
I was the kid that, I didn't even like selling candy bars. I'd beg my parents to buy them all because I didn't want to go door to door. So I say that to say I'm good in one-on-one situations. I'm good in, if you come to me, I'll tell you about everything I can do for you.
You're also
it's
very
going
smart.
Out, the cold calling part. So know your weaknesses too.
Yep.
If you're a one-man shop, you don't have many options. But if that's not your strength, get someone in that is their strength.
Bill Gates, I saw a documentary with him where he was talking about how he was impossibly socially awkward as a kid.
Yeah.
So he reached out to a guy and said, "Guy, could you sell this?" They became good friends. The guy was much older than him, and they went on to dominate the Microsoft world. Steve Jobs, think about this. Wozniak couldn't sell anything. You know, Wozniak Woz did not want to quit his job at Hewlett-Packard even when Apple became a multi-million-dollar company. He wanted to know if he could stay there just in case. You're like, no, you own a big thing. So, Levi, let's talk about sales for a second.
Sure.
When you're selling, there's somebody out there. This whole show's meant to be reparative, not punitive. And I want to get your take, and then I want to get Josh's take on this with Living Water. What would you say to a man or a woman who maybe hasn't had one-on-one coaching or hasn't had the mentorship from your grandfather and your family? Mm-hmm. What would you say to somebody who's afraid of sales? They're just afraid of the rejection.
Well, I would say you're never going to know if it's a yes or a no. If you don't put yourself out there, you don't stand to gain anything. So I'm with Wes, with Mr. Carter here. I'm not all that great at sales. I'm not a super people person. So I've got someone hired that I brought on specifically for that, and we're training her, and she's going to be implementing the Dream 100 for us.
Josh, I want to get your take again because the Living Water Irrigations has grown from $300,000 in sales annually to $1.9 million in sales annually. That means you had to sell something.
Yes, sir.
I have found the people who are the most successful have actually been rejected 50 times more than the average person per week.
Absolutely.
I found this to be true. So the guy who's the top sports agent, if you interview him and you talk to him, he's been rejected 1,000 times more per year than the average office employee somewhere. Was it hard for you getting over the rejection, or did you not care?
So at first it was, and then when I truly understood the numbers, like what Cory was talking about, if you go take your 50 no's, you're going to get your 5 yeses. If you go take your 500 no's, you can figure out how to get that yes and more consistently get that yes, how to overcome objections, how to truly show benefits instead of features, how to learn how to sell and how to talk to people instead of trying to push some nonsensical thing to actually legitimately provide a quality product at a quality price.
And I want to, if it's okay, Wes, let's not put this part of the transcript on the show for legal reasons here. But I remember back in the day when I was a really bad sales coach. I mean, I was like, 21, 22, and somehow people would buy something from me because I was motivated.
Yeah.
And I was passionate.
Energy.
They'd buy the energy, and they'd buy the momentum. They'd buy and Steve Jobs wrote about this. He calls it the reality distortion field. It's where people just buy from you and they don't know why because you're into it. So I used to. This would be my sales meetings every week, and this is the crap I would say every single week. It's crazy. If people read these transcripts, their minds will be blown. Hopefully you hear the audio. But I would say, guys, there are about 10 of us. This week, we've got to go out there and take events from ordinary to extraordinary because we're DJing for brides, and the gap between great and bad is wide. It would just rhyme all the time. So I need everybody out there. We got to dial and smile and call them all until they cry, buy, or die. And then we got to say the right things to the right people. And then the fish will jump inside the boat. And the staff would leave. The staff would leave like, what? That analogy doesn't make sense. The metaphor doesn't make sense. Why does it all rhyme? But it kind of worked for a while.
Yeah.
It was a feeling. And then by Tuesday morning, after our Monday meeting, the guys wouldn't be on the phone. And so I would go and buy bulk orders of books. I'd buy like 12 copies of Soft Selling in a Hard World. And I'd say, guys, read this book by Monday. And then implement. Oh, yeah. So Monday, and I'm making up names here, but I'm like, Carl, did you read the book? Oh, yeah. What was it about? Soft selling overall in a world that's hard. Well, Carl, how are we going to apply that? With diligence. Okay, well, Carl, and then you realize Carl didn't get a single thing out of it. I went through that cycle for years. And then eventually I realized I have to write a script and then make the team do the script. Write a script, role play the script. Write a script, role play the script. Write a script, record the calls, and just role play. It's like learning how to shoot free throws or something. You just over and over and over. I didn't know that. And once I learned that, it was awesome because I could duplicate myself. But previous to that, dude, if I lost a key sales guy, it was, I mean, like a bad 6 months. I want to get your take on this. As you're scaling your company, Levi, have you delegated the sales process yet? Or is it you doing all the sales? Or walk the listeners through that at this point. Have you begun to scale the sales process yet? Or where are you at?
Yeah, so that's something we've just started here within the last 6 months or so. You know, as we grow, I just can't continue to take on everything. That's when I found I'm just doing everything less and less effective. So that's something we brought on a couple of project managers, and we've started to delegate the estimating and sales processes for our company.
We have a company we've worked with for a long time, and I want to get Colton's take on this real quick, then I'm going to come back to you, Josh. Colton's here. He works with a company called Shaw Homes. A true story. When I first started working with Shaw Homes, they did $37 million of sales the first year. And this year they just passed $80 million for the year.
Wow.
And what's cool is their biggest month ever would be like $3.5 million a month. How much sales did Shaw Homes do, Colton, this past month in January? And by the way, January is the lowest month of the year in home building ever. It's always the lowest. As the weather heats up, the sales heat up. What was the sales numbers last month for January total?
Just above 12 million.
And how long have you been on the team?
For 5 months.
And how many millions of dollars of sales have you sold?
Just under 6 million.
Wow.
You've sold over 6 million, just under $6 million.
Under 6 million, yes, sir.
And do you make a commission on that?
I do.
So do you remember how the opportunity or the connection to work at Shaw came about?
Yeah, through you. So I had sold my portion of my company, and I said, Clay, what do I do now? And you said, well, don't just sit on it. Let's find you a job ASAP. And
you taught my kids tumbling.
That's correct.
And so, but I will make sure you get this, when you moved out of that business, and Aaron's going to join you tonight to talk about that, you knew nothing about sales.
Nothing, no.
but you have sold that much.
I did, yes, sir.
So that's what's powerful is that and I think you were the top sales guy last month.
And this month, yes, sir.
And let's pretend that I hate you on a personal level. Let's pretend I hate you on a personal level, don't like you. It doesn't matter. You're doing that much sales. And let's say I like you on a personal level. Doesn't matter. You're doing that much sales. What are you doing? How many calls a day do you make?
I make 75 calls a day.
Did you have a big experience? Did you come from a long line of home builders?
I did not. Nope.
Does your vast knowledge of plywood allow you to sell?
I don't know much about plywood at
all. Are
all.
you following scripts and systems, or are you making crap up as you go?
I am following scripts and systems.
Because literally, when you decided to de-partner from your tumbling business, I gave you the number, I think, of 4 business owners and said, call them, see what sticks. Because I knew you made phone calls. But you're selling a lot of stuff.
I am.
And Aaron called me and said, we got to get this guy on the show because he's generated the most sales of anybody with no experience because of the systems.
That's exactly right.
Well, it's a good point, too, because, like we talked about, even if you're not comfortable with it, as the business owner or manager,
yes, you
have to still be involved. Even if it's not you on the phone, you delegate that part, you got to be constantly working on those scripts and seeing what works and making those improvements. And like, we're talking about a second ago, constantly looking for better ways to close the deal so you can teach your people and be involved in the process. So whether you're the one making the calls or you're having someone do that on your behalf, you have to stay involved in that process.
And I'm not ripping you at all. I'm just telling the true story.
Yeah.
When I gave your number to what, 4 or 5 people?
That's right.
And I told, this is my commercial. I said, hey, Aaron, the guy makes a lot of calls for his own company. His previous experience was teaching cheerleading. I don't know if he's a good guy, if he's Lucifer, if he's Beelzebub, if he's an up arrow or a down arrow, but we'll give him a shot. And you're the top guy.
I'm the top guy.
But it's a system. It's a system, and that's the whole thing. Is I see this, and I wanna just demystify this. And I want to get Josh back on the mic here because Josh, you can tell the story. But with living water irrigation, this guy knows more about irrigation than I'm ever going to know, and you know more about excavation than I'm ever going to know. But you have a great lady on your team, a great team now, Josh. But isn't it kind of freeing knowing that you can give a script to somebody who doesn't have the experience you have?
Absolutely.
And they can do it at that level? So how hard is it to train people now? I mean, do you give them sales books to read? Do you give them a script? What do you do now? What does it look like?
So now we have for our office staff, we have a booklet and with all of our checklists, and we have a script as far as incoming calls, outgoing calls, what we're doing for our review calls, what we're doing to follow up with our leads. So we literally have a script now for almost everything I can think of.
And you're taking your wife on a weekly date now?
Yes, sir.
You guys just went to, where'd you go, someplace tropical?
We went to Costa Rica the 1st of January, and then we just got back last week from Phoenix.
Did the business fall apart?
It did not.
It's interesting. So you can create both time and financial freedom. Again, excavation, living water, irrigation, Trinity employment, Winners and King. It can all happen. The thing you can't delegate is the thing you can't delegate. So I want to go to you here on this, Levi. I want to think about this. What's the thing that you probably will never delegate? Because for me, I make the business plans for all my clients. And I've never found someone who I can delegate it to. I've tried, and they always will go, how did you know about that? And I'm going, well, I've been self-employed for 23 years. I save all the files very meticulously, so I can find another excavation company I've worked with in the past and pull their file. But I can't really delegate that. But I can delegate, answering the phones and setting appointments and greeting people at the workshop. And there's a lot I can delegate. But what's the thing that you probably think eventually you won't be able to delegate?
I would say keeping up with finances, just keeping your finger on the pulse of the business finance. Where's my money going? Who's spending money on my credit card this month? And where are my checks being written? Just following up and making sure no one's taking advantage.
What about the leadership and the vision?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So just having an idea for what we want the business to be in the future and following up to make sure that all of my key people are hitting all of their expectations on a daily basis.
And I want to make sure we're getting this. When you're hiring people, you want to hire character and train skill. Mm-hmm. That's where you want to build the system so easy you can hire character and train skill. Because if you can't do that, now you got to find people with experience. And Wes, how much more money are people with experience?
A lot more. A lot more. And then they come in entitled sometimes.
And they want to tell you how to run your legal office.
Yeah.
And then a month later they want to raise.
Remind you how much they're worth, yeah.
So I want to make sure we're getting this, okay? So we start off the bottom, got that time management going on. Okay, we got the time management, great. Now we're getting some branding going on. We got our ideal and likely buyers going on. We got some sales going on. This is exciting. Marketing, got some sales. Now we got to do some accounting. And your wife is an incredible lady.
She is.
And she helps you with your...
So grateful for that. Accounting.
And she just quit her job to do full-time accounting for you, I believe.
She did. Yeah, so she's been an accountant for a long, long time. And
Was that rewarding for her to quit?
It was a wonderful, wonderful, huge day for us.
Is she... No, this is the way I would describe the relationship with my wife. And I say this at the conference all the time.
Yeah.
I give an idea. I tell my wife an idea that will for sure make money. And then my wife and Wes, they collude. And I refer to my business ideas as cute kittens. And they then collude and they punt my kittens. Every time, oh, look at the little kitten. And I'm going, why would you? And what they're doing, and you have to do this. You have to. There's got to be somebody who's thinking about the downside of the upside.
Yes.
The trade up, the trade off. And I'll tell you what my life was like. What my life was like before I allowed my wife to be in that position, that lane. June of 2006 or 7, maybe 8, 7 or 8. We had, I think it was, she tells me 12 speaking events in 1 month. Toronto, San Diego, San Antonio, somewhere in Colorado, Denver, Colorado, Springfield, Missouri. We had to drive someplace in Nebraska. They're just, and we never saw our kids. But that was because I was 100% in charge of just, if you could sell it, let's sell it. So I want to go with you first, Josh. Talk to me about the boundaries that maybe, does your wife help you with that? Is she sort of a moral compass? Is she sort of because some people work with their wife, some people don't, but everybody needs somebody to point out the downside of the upside. Who's helping you with that?
So that's definitely Amy. She does an amazing job of being because I'm ridiculously optimistic, and I think everybody's great. Everything's going to work out, and everything's just beautiful and roses and
we haven't
rainbows.
spent enough time together, obviously.
I could hang out with you, Wes, and just everything would be horrible.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Amy does a great job of keeping us focused, and we actually put on paper before she decided to quit her job and come work with us. We put on paper what her role and responsibility is, what mine is, and so that way.
So you work with your wife.
Yeah,
and you've talked about the lanes going into it.
Absolutely.
If you don't know your lanes, get ready for complaints.
Absolutely.
Okay. Wes, do you work with your wife? If
Never.
not, why?
No. My wife runs
Really?
pretty much my entire life other than the business.
She does.
And that's kind of what works for us is she runs the house, the kids' schedule. You know, she tells me where I need to be when I need to show up for family stuff and business stuff. I take care of. And I mean, obviously, she's a sounding board sometimes if I have a decision, but we keep those pretty separate.
I had a guy I know, again, keeping it vague. Very, very vague. A guy I knew through various things years ago whose wife made a ton of money. Have you ever met where she's the sugar mama? And homeboy doesn't have a motivational bone in his body. I mean, he's watching cartoons till 10 a.m. every Saturday. I mean, I'm serious. I've known him from a long time back. And I meet his wife, and she's like fit and in shape and on time and high and tight. And you're like, what? You know, and he's sort of like, I don't know. It's like John Candy. You know, he's sort of like, he's going camping with your Uncle Buck kind of guy. He's a cool guy. But he decides he wants to be the CFO of her business. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen this before where somebody's in the wrong lane. But I remember I was at their house because I was trying to mediate. He said, can you guys come over and maybe just help me? We're having a hard time. What a conflicts. And I want to get your take. And she's excellent at business and excellent at fitness, just not really into being that mom thing. She'd do the mom after 5, but she doesn't want to get a call from the kids during the day. She won't take the kids to school. She has a driver that takes the kids to school. She actually has a rule. Don't call me about the kids at work. You do that. So we're in the meeting, and she's got a great branding idea. I mean, it's a beautiful idea. It's going to work. And he goes, well, I don't know. I don't think, what if people don't like it? And he just starts to poo-poo on the idea. And not only that, but he's perpetually wrong.
Yeah.
And so, like, my wife has earned the right to criticize. Wes has too. That's why I pay you. I do want to get. Do you work with your wife there, Levi? Do you guys work together in the business? Do you not? I just want to, because I want to help somebody out there who's having that constant conflict going on.
Yeah. So there was a time that I worked with my wife. Before I kind of stepped into management, we always did things the old-fashioned way, I guess. You know, my dad, he was a tremendous business owner, had tremendous business sense, but he was just kind of comfortable. You know, at his age, that's perfectly fine. So. My mom was doing the books, and she needed a little bit of help. So they asked my wife, hey, do you know anything about QuickBooks? And she says, well, no. So they said, well, you got YouTube? So you're hired. And so whenever I stepped in and started managing, I often joke that was one of the happiest days of my professional career was the day I got to fire my mother and wife.
Wow.
Yeah. It's hard to hold them accountable, it turns out. So
I want somebody should write that down. I'm just telling. There's somebody out there that's got to write that down, because I watch the Patriots a lot, and I think to myself, Tom Brady is so good at football. And then I think to myself, well, maybe he and Giselle should be on the team together, because they're married. Or, wow, she's such a great model. Maybe Tom should give her. I mean, no, you got to find that lane. Wes, do you have any tips? Because you work with a lot of people, and as an attorney, you get into the weeds, and you're kind of dealing with the husband and wife. What advice would you have for a couple that's chronically fighting?
Well, I think it's different for everyone. So sometimes the business is taking one of you away, and so you never see each other. It's a lack of time management, and that's causing the friction. Sometimes you're seeing too much of each other, and that's just not how you guys are built. And so I think understanding your marriage, your lanes, your talents, and applying those to your specific situation is the only way that you can come up with a workable solution, because everybody's different. So this is like one of those few areas where a process and a procedure is going to, maybe not be a one-size-fits-all, because we all have different personalities and talents. And the worst case, which you hit on, Clay, is not just the personality, but if one of you is in a role that you don't have the talent for, that's not your cup of tea. Because then that person's frustrated and bitter, and the other one's bitter because you're doing a bad job. I mean, I
have another example.
Toxic.
For some reason, I know a lot of guys who are married to successful women, but one of my buddies, he wouldn't let his wife hire any men who weren't ugly.
Oh.
So, like, she would want to hire these guys because she does retail sales, and she's got a busy retail environment. And so anytime that she would have, like, a guy who appears to have hit the gym ever, he's like, no, not a good fit. It would always be, I just, he
a
went to
bad feeling
ORU,
about that
kind of
guy.
shady. He could be. ORU, too Christian-y, too Rhema, too faith-filled, too not faith-filled, too liberal, too conservative, too tall, too white. I hate white people. Like, you are white. There's always some sort of a.
Right.
And again, just if you're out there, hopefully that's helpful. And I want to just wrap up today's show before we hop on to show number 2 here. Levi, you've worked with Clay Stairs for a long time. And Josh, you've worked with me for a long time.
Yes, sir.
And there's somebody out there who's thinking about filling out the form and wants to learn more about one-on-one coaching. And I don't want the wrong person filling out the form because we're booked out all the time. And I know Clay Stairs is too, and so there's kind of a right fit and there's a wrong fit. And you hope the branding tells people we're a right fit. You hope when people go to shawhomes.com that they know they sell homes and they don't show up going, do you guys still do the petting zoo tours? Is that something? I mean, you hope that's the branding puts that out there. What kind of person would be ideal fit for one-on-one coaching, and who should not fill out that form?
So I would say the big difference there would be between someone who just dreams about what they want to do and where they want their business to be, and the person that's actually willing to go out there and put in the work to do it. Coaching, they're going to give you all the tools and and put you in the right direction, but they've never actually just came out and done the work for me. The website branding, those things that are out of my power, absolutely. But as far as homework and getting the things done that I'm supposed to be getting done between our meetings every week, if you're not going to do those, there's just no point. So if you're willing to put in the work, it's absolutely beneficial. I've had several times over return of what we've spent a month, and it's for the diligent, it's a tremendous program.
168% growth, just awesome stuff, man. Great job there.
Thank you.
Yeah, Wes, you had a hot take.
I was just going to say, just in case there's a utility company CEO listening right now, would you like to tell listeners how they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find us on our website at www.gei-usa.com or on the phone, 918-447-3350.
GEI-USA.com?
GEI-USA.com.
Are you saying
Yes, sir.
GEI-USA.com?
Gamma Echo India. Yes, GEI.
It's almost seared into my neural pathway. One more time.
GEI-USA.com.
Shunda. I got it now. That felt good. Now, Josh, we've
sir.
worked together for a long time.
Yep.
You know people that do not like me.
Wes, is that possible that somebody wouldn't like Clay?
No.
Most people, yeah.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
Just it. Okay. So what kind of person should fill out the form, should come to a conference, and who shouldn't?
I think that Levi said it really well. I think those who are willing to do the work, those who are diligent, those who are willing to learn and listen.
Yep.
I think self-awareness is a big thing. Levi said a few points on today's show that was just huge about what he was good at, what he sucked at. I think as an entrepreneur, you need to really identify those things. And if you're just willing to do the work, if you're willing to learn and listen, if you're willing to be diligent, you can be really successful in the system. If you're going to whine and complain and make excuses and be lazy and talk about socialism, probably not a good fit.
You know, what's interesting is that not with you, because I don't work with you directly like Clay Stairs does, but with Wes, we had like a 1 week where it seemed like every attorney in Tulsa kept reaching out to me to become a client. And we only work with one person of every niche. And do you remember that phone call I called
do.
you? And I
do.
said, hey, we had somebody. And then I think I called you the same day.
Yeah.
Because we had two.
And so one of them was in a whole different area I don't practice in, so we were like, that's cool. And then one of them was trying to eat into the same territory that we're in, so we said we'd rather you not.
And you had a lawn company sitting by you, I think, at one of the conferences.
Yeah, there was two of them, actually.
Two.
It was awesome.
And that's a great way to not make friends, is to tell somebody, I can't work with you because my stated goal is to destroy you.
Well, the guy actually asked me after the conference, hey, do you think it's money well spent? And I said, oh, absolutely, I do. He's like, man, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign up. And I said, well, I'll be the one to tell you. And he said, what's that? I said, you can't. He's like, well, what do you mean I can't? And I was like, you're more than welcome to reach out, but they'll only work with one person in each industry. And he was like, well, that's crap. And I said, well, you could read the book and listen to the podcast.
That's
There's a bunch of great stuff there.
Well, one of the
that
things
means me. I'm crap. Thank you.
One of the things I was going to mention about the good fits for the form,
Yeah.
I joked earlier that, a lot of people don't like Clay. But the reason is you better be becoming ready to hear the truth. Most people can't handle the truth. And a good business coach, Clay, they're going to give you the truth because that's the only way you can fix an issue. And so you better come ready to hear the truth, accept it, and get criticism because that's how we get better.
I told a person today, I won't mention their gender, but I told a person today, they said the group interview is not working. And I said, you're not doing the group interview, right? And they go, well, yeah. And I'm like, so you're not working? And they just got pissed. And then it happened really quickly. And then they go, but that's what I pay you for. But it was like, the group interview's not working. You're not doing the group interview. Now, Cory, I want to get your take because I've known you longer than anybody here, I think, about a decade. You and I have worked together, and it's really neat to see what Cory and Amber have built, and it's been fun to be a small part of that growth. But what kind of person should not come to a conference and who should as we wrap up today's show? What kind of person should not fill out the form? Who should want to be a client? Who should not? Because we just don't want the wrong kind of leads.
Well, I mean, everyone said it really well, but I think the biggest thing is you need to become open to hearing new ideas, and just keep in mind that the things that really work, a lot of times they don't make rational sense to you, to the average human being walking around.
Very counterintuitive.
It doesn't seem like it should work that way. Like, yeah, very counterintuitive, and so you need to come with a bit of trust, and that's very difficult for a lot of people. And I've worked with you a lot, Clay. I've seen you work with a lot of people. I've experienced what Wes is talking about, and I think a lot of it is unjustified, in my opinion. But I will tell you this: you really need. I've watched you have genius ideas for a lot of companies, and I know that not everyone works directly with you, but
sure,
I've watched it, and I would encourage someone, if you did fill out the form, to come with a little bit of trust. And if you don't, I mean, just trust me. I've watched it work with a lot of people. Guys sitting here next to me, Aaron Antis, I mean, really, really worked. Came with some genius ideas, but it wasn't counterintuitive, and trusting in that is very important.
And as I attempt to own the word genius, I want to make sure you get this. All genius means is that you've spent 10,000 hours obsessing about something. So
that is very true.
I would argue that you are a staffing genius. I would argue that Wes is a legal genius. I would argue that Levi is a genius. Now, are we getting better? Are there people better than us? Yeah. But when you obsess about one thing, for, in my case, 23 years, I've been like, how do I help myself not get poor? Okay, done. How do I help other people not get poor? Okay. How do I help people scale time freedom? I mean, when you think about something for 23 consecutive years and you don't enjoy camping, fishing, hiking, vacations, pro sports games, going out to eat, or really anything, you find out you have a lot of time on your hands.
That's what I'm talking about genius. When he says this, it's hard for the average person to realize that for surely he's just exaggerating. Okay, listen, man. Okay, we've known each other for about a decade. He's not exaggerating one bit. That's what this guy does. He reads more than anyone I've ever met and likes it. And never wants to stop. And if I were to ask Clay over to my house, I've got a great back deck.
Oh yeah, you do.
Clay, do you want to come over and have barbecue tonight?
No.
He's not going to do. He's not kidding. He's not going to come over to my house because he wants to go read about something. And so when I mean genius, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm awestruck or something. I've just watched it happen.
Yeah, I would just say if you're out there today, we want to help you grow. We want to help you create time freedom and financial freedom. Congratulations there, Levi. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to encourage somebody out there.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Somebody out there feels stuck, and your success creates a wake that they can get behind and do a little water skiing there.
Sure.
So we're going to end the show with a boom. These mics are hot, so we got to take one giant step back for mankind so we can bring the boom. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom.
Attend the world's best business workshop led by America's #1 business coach for free by subscribing on iTunes and leaving us an objective review. Claim your tickets by emailing us proof that you did it and your contact information to info@thrivetimeshow.com.